Okay, we're going to take a look at the beginning of the Cold War. Now, this Cold War, you can see it's a pretty long period of time, 45, 46 years. And we're just going to look at kind of how this whole thing started. Okay. Now, when we talk about a Cold War, it's because they're not actually fighting. There's no actual killing. It's more we have the atomic bomb, they have the atomic bomb. Nobody wants to use it. So it's going to be a lot of back and forth, like a game of chess. Okay. Now, we looked at communism yesterday. Okay, and the Cold War is really between the United States and the Soviet Union, what's today Russia. We're democratic. We have capitalism. Again, this should all be a review from yesterday. Whereas they're communist, totalitarian. All right, government has complete control over every aspect of their life. We have free speech. They have a state-controlled media. So I mean, no free internet, obviously, if it was communist today, but no free TV. It's all controlled by the government. Okay, what's on TV, what's on magazines, billboards, newspapers. We're the richest country in the world. They're the biggest country in the world. We have the atomic bomb when it all starts. They have the biggest army. Truman, our president, hates communism, and Stalin, their leader, hates capitalism and democracy. So you have this tension right off the bat. Okay, so the Cold War, United States, Soviet Union. All right, so this picture really, we'll come back to this, and you see the guys, if this is U.S. and this is the Soviet Union, and they have these huge bombs behind them, but yet they're shooting bows and arrow. Okay, think about that. This is kind of a good picture to symbolize the Cold War. We'll look at that tomorrow. Okay, so after World War II, Europe is destroyed. All right, and we're going to try to fix them. All right, now when you think about how or who would think communism is a good idea, it's generally people that are on the low end. Okay, now Europe is destroyed, so if they're on the low end, communism is going to look pretty good. So we're going to come in to help rebuild Europe, all right, to keep communism from spreading. Now we're going to come in with quite a bit of money. All right, I mean, it's $13 billion in aid. And the Soviet Union rejects this money from Eastern Europe. Now, why would they reject money? Because they want it to stay bad so communism looks good. Okay, and this plan is called the Marshall Plan. And it's this plan, again, to rebuild Europe so we don't see what happened. We saw what happened with Germany after World War I. Okay, they're destroyed economically, militarily, politically, and when things were that bad, what looked pretty good? Hitler. Okay, we don't want that to happen again, so we're going to help these countries rebuild. And nothing really illustrates this better than this picture here. Okay, Hamburg, Germany. This is 2 years after World War II is over. Okay, after we give them millions of dollars of aid to rebuild, you could see the same city street. Okay, just a couple years later. Now, which one of these do you think people would turn to communism? All right, it's obviously this top one. Things look pretty bad. So the United States helps these countries out so that they don't turn to communism. And this picture really shows that perfectly. Okay, again, we'll look at this. Stalin blocking the Marshall Plan. I think it was going to miss anyway, but that's okay. He doesn't have that jumper like me. European recovery, Stalin, again, trying to block recovery. All right. Now, we have this issue with the communists, okay? And what are we going to do with them? We can appease them, all right? Just let them into their demands like we did with Hitler. We can nuke them, or we can do this policy called containment. Now, what containment is we're not going to push back communism. We're just going to keep it from spreading. Okay, so you think about it like a jar of Mountain Dew. a jar of Mountain Dew. That'd be weird. Okay, a glass of Mountain Dew with a lid. Okay, and if you tip it upside down and it has the lid, nothing happens. Okay, if you take the lid off and tip it upside down, it spreads everywhere. We're trying to keep the lid on communism. We don't want it to spread. All right, and this policy is called containment. All right, so we're going to see how this works. So again, like I said, we're going to contain it where it is already. Don't let it spread. Okay, and this will be our official policy under President Truman. Okay, again, they have the bombs, they have the guns, but we're sword fighting with a toothpick. All right, and there's Truman and Stalin. Now, what begins to become commonly known as there's this division between East and West Europe. Now, you did this on your map yesterday. Okay, this division of communism and freedom and democracy and capitalism. And Winston Churchill, the leader of Great Britain, comes up with this phrase that there's an iron curtain that is drawn down the middle of Europe. Okay, and this iron curtain, again, why not a silk curtain or a nice velvet curtain? Because it's strong. It's hard to get through. It's ruthless. Okay, so you look on this. You have the Soviet Union and Poland and these satellite nations over here, communist. Over here, democracy, capitalism. All right, so really the world is set into us versus them. All right, and this is going to go on for 45, 46 years. Okay. Again, you can see the Western democracies with their nice culture and symphony, and the Iron Curtain being drawn, and Stalin trying to get a peek. All right, before it closes up. Now, the first kind of battle, I guess, or first kind of chess move, is what happens in Germany. Okay, now this is going to be kind of confusing. Here's Germany. All right, it's in the red and the greens. Germany is divided up into 4 sections. Okay, after World War II, we don't want it to fall into depression, hyperinflation like after World War I. So you can see it divides up. The American, the French, the British, and the Russian all get a quadrant. Now, where is Berlin? Well, Berlin is in the Russian zone. But Berlin is the capital, most powerful, wealthiest city in Germany. So they're going to take Berlin and cut Berlin up into 4 pieces. Okay, let that sink in. They take Germany, cut Germany into 4. Then they take Berlin and cut Berlin into 4. Make sense? Okay. So when you're looking at this here, Berlin is in the middle of Soviet Union territory. But you have to look at it even more to see that Berlin is chopped up into these 4 sections where the United States, France, Great Britain all have part of Berlin. Okay. Now, who do you think would be upset about this? Well, obviously the Soviets, all right? I mean, Berlin is in the middle of their territory, and yet they only get half of it. Well, something's going to have to give, all right? And here again, you have East, West Berlin. We're not going to have the Berlin Wall yet. We'll have that later, okay? So Berlin is in the Soviet sector, which we can see, all right? And Stalin doesn't want any part of democracy in his Eastern Europe. Okay, so what's he going to do? He's going to put up a blockade, all right? And what he does is he wants to starve West Berlin into giving in to him, okay? He cuts off the roads, cuts off the street access, cuts off the railway, and really sets up barricades around West Berlin so that nothing can come in, all right? No food, no medical supplies, no water, and he's really going to hold tight to try to make them give in and get the Americans and the French and the British out. Now, this is our first little chess match. What's Truman going to do? Okay, we're going to do something called the Berlin Airlift. All right, so the blockade is what the Soviets do. The airlift is what we do. We come over the top and we fly in supplies. All right, for 327 days, almost a whole year, and we We come in, we give them the food, the water, the resources, the first aid, the medical supplies they need, and this goes on for almost a year, and Stalin has to lift the blockade and looks kind of foolish. So think of this as this chess match. Nobody shot anybody, because if anybody is shot, they're going to drop nukes. No army is brought in, because that's going to be World War III. It's a strategic mission, okay? You could see the planes flying in. I mean, thousands of planes just constantly landing in West Berlin to give them the supplies they need. All right. Why doesn't he shoot them? Because if he shoots them, it's World War III. Okay. This is just kind of an interesting little factoid. The Americans actually had this Operation Little Vittles that they would send in parachutes that had with handkerchiefs and have candy and drop them for the German kids. Just kind of a cool little side note. Okay. So again, it's all about this game of chess. Nobody's shooting or killing anybody. All right. Now, what's going to happen is that these alliances that we've seen since the beginning of the year are starting to form and become solid. Okay. The first one is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is still around today. They say if you attack one of these countries, you attack all of us. Okay. Alliances, all right? And what happens is you don't have to worry about all the countries that are in it. We're in it, but they're all capitalist democracies, okay? So now you have all of these democracies, capitalist countries saying, all for one, one for all. You attack one of us, you're going to get the rest of us. Let's do this, okay? Now, the Soviet Union, of course, is going to form their little group called the Warsaw Pact, okay? This is the communist response to NATO. So NATO is democracies. The Warsaw Pact is communist. Okay, all the European communist countries are all in this group. Same thing. So if Bulgaria attacks France, World War III. Okay, if Czechoslovakia attacks Great Britain, World War III. Same sort of tension set up like with World War I, World War II. We saw this. Okay, what makes it even crazier is now we're going to test the hydrogen bomb, this super bomb, 80 times the power of what we dropped on Japan. Okay, and the Soviets have a hydrogen bomb as well. So now both of these countries are in these thick alliances, and they are ready. If something happens, the world is over, literally. And that's why it's the Cold War. Okay, and it's this chess match back and forth to really see who's smarter, who's better. If communism is better, if capitalism is better, okay, and if one of them pulls a trigger, we're all dead, okay. So that's our end of our notes for the beginning of the Cold War, and I'll see you guys in class, okay.